Have you ever felt disappointed? I sure did. But what if our disappointments are actually our fault? You see, disappointment comes from our expectations not being met. And our expectations are not being met because a lot of times they are unrealistic. Sometimes we want things to happen in a certain way. And unless everything goes according to that plan, to that expectation, well, we will feel frustrated and disappointed. And the problem with expectations is it's different than ambition, right? Ambition is this hunger to evolve, to know more, to learn, to be better, to do better. And expectations are more similar to dreams. But in dreams, we know that they are dreams, therefore they are not real. But when it comes to expectations, we like to think that they are real, that they are realistic. A lot of times they aren't. And when we do this with people, for example, because we expect them to change something, to be kinder or to be on time or to be more organized, for example, and then they don't meet our expectations. Sometimes that happens because, one, we set unrealistic expectations about someone without even trying to understand them or base our expectations in their own personality and their own life experiences. And two, because we didn't even told them about our expectations. And so we are just expecting that they somehow read our minds and figure it out that we are expecting that from them. Well, that's an issue because mind reading is not really a thing. And it's actually disrespectful. And sometimes when we set expectations about others, we forget what that feels like when we are the ones that are being expected to do something against our own will or even against our own knowledge. So if we think that when we grow up, for example, our parents usually have expectations for us, and those expectations are based on their own beliefs and on their own life's experiences and on their own needs and desires, but they are not most of the time based on who we truly are. And so whenever we are setting expectations regarding other person that are not based on who they truly are, well, we are kind of disrespecting them because we are telling them that they are not enough and that they are not worthy and that they should change. And if we remember ourselves when we were kids and had parents expecting us to be in a certain way, maybe we can empathize with those who are not meeting our expectations and therefore are disappointing us. But even with life, I feel that we as human beings tend to set expectations that happened in a certain way. And so we are matching our ambitions, but making sure that we want those ambitions to play out on a certain timeline, in a certain way, in specific scenarios. And we get so caught up into that vision, into that expectation, that unless it happens exactly as we expected it to, it won't be worthy. It won't be something to be proud of or something to celebrate or something to acknowledge, and that will obviously turn out to be a disappointment again. And so I have this theory that if we could not have expectations about life and especially about other people, probably we could live with less disappointment in our lives. But this theory of mine is faulty because our human brains are made to make stories. We need stories to live. That's why whenever we don't have an information, we will make one. Like if there is a blank space in a story, we will fill that blank space. Like if we know the next door neighbor, but we don't know exactly their lives, but we will make our own assumption of their lives because we need that information. Our brains need that feeling of, I know this, I have the complete story. But most of the times you don't. It's just a projection of our own beliefs, our own experiences. And this happens as well when we set expectations for our lives and for others, right? Because we are basically designing someone else and some experiences based on our own experiences and beliefs and core values. And it's completely separate a lot of times from the reality, from the facts, from other people's personalities and beliefs and experiences. And that's what causes us to be disappointed a lot of times. Obviously, a lot of things we cannot control, but we like to think that we control. And that's another way to disappointment because in the end we will realize that shit, I can't control nothing, you know? The only thing we can control is how we react to things and our own actions, what we do, what we say, what we believe in. Those are things that we can control, but we cannot control what others do or what the world will say. So I wonder if we could live a better life if we didn't have to set expectations, unrealistic expectations about everything and everyone in our lives, including ourselves, you know? This is not just about others. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectations for ourselves too. Like we have this ideal image of who we want to be and where we want to go and the things we want to achieve. And a lot of times we actually achieve those things, but because we didn't achieve those things in the time frame or in the sequence of events that we idealized and expected, we completely disregard it. And that's why we, a lot of times, feel like we are not getting anywhere, because in our minds, we are not achieving the things that we said we wanted to achieve in the way that we said we wanted to achieve. But yeah, maybe we can collectively work this out and make sure that we won't be as disappointed as we've been disappointed right now. And I think that historically speaking, we are living in a moment in time that it's very easy to get disappointed. For example, when you have actors and artists, people that you kind of looked up to and that inspired you, being part of like Epstein files, for example. And it's easy to become disappointed because you were not expecting that person to be a criminal, you know? So yeah, I think we desperately need to learn how to lower our expectations, not because we don't want more of life and not because we don't want people to be better as a whole, as a society, as humanity, but simply to protect ourselves from not being in a permanent state of disappointment, because we cannot make the difference and we cannot change the world if we are completely depleted of energy and mental well-being. So that's today's thought. See you next time.